Welcome to the Thea Lee podcast. It is February 5th, 2026, and we are on day 36 of reading through the Bible. Moses goes to the people and tells them, "You will never forget this day. This is the day you left Egypt, the place of your slavery. Today the Lord has brought you out by the power of his mighty hand." So every year, in the early spring, at the beginning of the year in the month of Abib, you need to set aside 7 days to commemorate this. When God brings you into the land that he promised your ancestors he would give to you, a land flowing with milk and honey, set aside these 7 days. You must not have any yeast in your house or eat anything with yeast in it. And then on the 7th day, you must have a feast to the Lord, and explain to your children that you are celebrating this because of what the Lord did for you when you left Egypt. This annual festival will be a visible sign to you, like a mark branded on your hand or your forehead. Let it remind you always to recite this teaching of the Lord. With a strong hand, the Lord rescued you from Egypt. Observe this decree of this festival at the appointed time each year. And then this is what you also must do. When the Lord fulfills the promise that he swore to you and your ancestors, when he gives you that land where the Canaanites now live, you must present all firstborn sons and firstborn male animals to the Lord, for they belong to him. If it is a firstborn donkey, then you can buy it back with a young lamb or goat, but if you don't buy it back, you must break its neck. However, you must buy back all of the firstborn sons. And then in the future, when your children ask why you're doing this, you can explain to them that with the power of the Lord's mighty hand, he brought us out of Egypt, but the Pharaoh stubbornly refused to let us go, and so the Lord killed all of the firstborn males, both animal and human. That's why I now sacrifice all the firstborn males to the Lord, except that the firstborn sons are always bought back. And this ceremony will also be like a mark branded on your hand and your forehead, as a reminder of the power of the Lord's mighty hand that brought us out of Egypt. So now, when the Pharaoh finally let the people go, God did not lead them along the main road that runs through Philistine territory that goes the shortest route to the Promised Land. God realized that if the people faced the battle, that they would change their minds and return to Egypt. So he led them in a roundabout way through the wilderness towards the Red Sea. So the Israelites left Egypt like an army, ready for battle. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him also, because Joseph had made the sons of Israel promise that they would take his bones when they left. He knew that God would send help to get them out of that land. So the Israelites left Succoth and camped at Etham on the edge of the wilderness. The Lord went ahead of them. He guided the way with a pillar of cloud, and he provided light at night with a pillar of fire, so they could travel by day or night. The Lord did not remove the pillar of cloud or the pillar of fire from its place in front of the people. Then the Lord gave Moses instructions to order the Israelites to turn back and camp by Pi-Hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea. Camp here along the shore, across from Baal-Zephon. The Pharaoh will think that you guys are confused and are trapped by the wilderness. And once again, I'm going to harden the Pharaoh's heart, and he will chase after you. I have planned this in order to display my glory through the Pharaoh and his whole army. After this, the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. So the Israelites camped where the Lord had told them. When word reached the king and all of his officials, they were angry that the Israelites had fled. They said, "What have we done, letting the Israelite slaves get away?" So the Pharaoh harnessed his chariot and called up all of the troops. He took 600 of Egypt's best chariots, along with the rest of the chariots of Egypt, each with its commander. The Lord hardened the heart of the Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, so that they chased after Israel, who had left with fists raised in defiance. The Egyptians chased after them with all the forces in the Pharaoh's army. They caught up with the people of Israel when they were camped beside the shore, across from Baal-Zephon. As the Pharaoh approached, of course, the people saw him coming, and they got scared, and they started asking Moses what he had done, why he had brought them out to die in the wilderness. They said, "Aren't there enough graves in Egypt? What have you done that you're making us come out here to die? We should go back. It'd be better to be slaves in Egypt than to be dead in the wilderness." But Moses told them to calm down, just stand still and watch the Lord rescue you today. The Egyptians you see, you will never see again. The Lord himself will fight for you. But then the Lord said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the people to get moving. Pick up your staff and raise your hand over the sea. Divide the water so that the Israelites can walk through the middle of the sea on dry ground. I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they're going to charge in after the Israelites, but my great glory will be displayed through the Pharaoh and his troops, his chariots, and his charioteers. When my glory is displayed through them, all Egypt will see my glory and know that I am the Lord." So the angel of God, who had been leading the people of Israel, moved to the rear of the camp. So the pillar of cloud also moved from the front and stood behind them. The cloud settled between the Egyptians and the Israelite camps. As darkness fell, the cloud turned to fire, lighting up the night. But the Egyptians and Israelites did not approach each other all night. When Moses raised his hand over the sea, the Lord opened up a path through the water. The east wind blew that night, turning the seabed into dry land. So the people of Israel walked through the middle of the sea on dry ground, with walls of water on each side. Then the Egyptians, all of the Pharaoh's horses, chariots, and charioteers, chased them into the middle of the sea. But just before dawn, the Lord looked down from the pillar of fire and cloud, and he threw the Egyptian forces into total confusion. Their chariot wheels started twisting and making their chariots difficult to drive, and all of a sudden the Egyptians realized that they were in trouble, and they wanted to get out of there away from the Israelites because they realized that God was fighting for the Israelites. When the Israelites had reached the other side, the Lord said to Moses to raise your hand over the sea again. Then the waters will rush back and cover the Egyptians and their chariots. So when the sun began to rise, Moses raised his hand over the sea, and the water rushed back. The Egyptians tried to escape, but the Lord swept them into the sea. Then the waters returned and covered all the chariots and the charioteers, the entire army of the Pharaoh, all of the Egyptians who had chased the Israelites into the sea. Not a single one survived. The people of Israel, though, had walked through the middle of the sea on dry ground, as the water stood up like a wall on both sides of them. And the Lord rescued Israel from the hand of the Egyptians that day. And the Israelites saw the bodies of the Egyptians washing up on the seashore. And then they saw the mighty power that God had unleashed against the Egyptians and were filled with awe before him. They put their faith in the Lord that day and in his servant Moses. Then Moses and the people of Israel sang a song to the Lord. I will sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. He has hurled both horse and rider into the sea. The Lord is my strength and my song. He has given me victory. This is my God, and I will praise him, my father's God, and I will exalt him. The Lord is a warrior. Yahweh is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and army he has hurled into the sea. The finest of Pharaoh's officers are drowned in the Red Sea. The deep waters gushed over them. They sank to the bottom like a stone. Your right hand, O Lord, is glorious in power. Your right hand, O Lord, smashes the enemy. In the greatness of your majesty, you overthrow those who rise against you. You unleash your blazing fury, and it consumes them like straw. At the blast of your breath, the waters piled up. The surging waters stood straight like a wall. In the heart of the sea, the deep waters became hard. The enemy boasted, I will chase them and catch up with them. I will plunder them and consume them. I will flash my sword. My powerful hand will destroy them. But you blew with your breath, and the sea covered them. They sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who is like you among the gods, O Lord, glorious in holiness, awesome in splendor, performing great wonders? You raised your right hand, and the earth swallowed our enemies. With your unfailing love, you lead the people you have redeemed. In your might, you guided them to your sacred home. The people hear and tremble. Anguish grips those who live in Philistia. The leaders of Edom are terrified. The nobles of Moab tremble. All who live in Canaan melt away. Terror and dread fall upon them. The power of your arm makes them lifeless as stone, until your people pass by, O Lord, until the people you purchased pass by. You will bring them in and plant them on your own mountain, the place, O Lord, reserved for your own dwelling, the sanctuary, O Lord, that your hands have established. The Lord will reign forever and ever. Then Miriam the prophet, Aaron's sister, took a tambourine and led all the women as they played their tambourines and danced, and Miriam sang this song. Sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously, he who has hurled both horse and rider into the sea. Then Moses led the people of Israel away from the Red Sea, and they moved down into the desert of Shur. They traveled in this desert for 3 days without water. Then they came to an oasis of Marah, but the water was bitter to drink. And then the people started turning against Moses and complaining, wondering what they were going to do. So Moses cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a piece of wood that he should put into the water, and then the water was okay to drink. It was there at Marah that the Lord set before them the following decree as a standard to test their faithfulness to him. He said, If you will listen carefully to the voice of the Lord your God and do what is right in his sight, obeying his commands and keeping all his decrees, then I will not make you suffer any of the diseases that I sent on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord who heals you. After leaving Marah, they traveled to an oasis of Elim, where they found 12 springs and 70 palm trees. They camped there beside the water. There's a couple things that stood out to me today as I was reading this. First of all, when the Lord is telling the Israelites to commemorate these two festivals at the beginning of each year, the first being the Passover, commemorating just the Lord bringing them out of Egypt, and then the second being the sacrifice of all the firstborn males to the Lord, and then of course buying back their firstborn sons, commemorating what God had to do in Egypt, that he killed all the firstborn males in Egypt. And he says that these things are to be a sign to them, and both of them, he says, will be like a mark branded on your hand or your forehead. And let it remind you always to recite that with a strong hand, the Lord rescued you from Egypt. And so this idea of a brand on your hand and forehead, of course, reminds me a bit of Revelations when we know the mark of the beast is going to be either on your hand or your forehead. But then I was thinking, okay, this says a brand. So if we're thinking about a brand on cattle, what if I had a brand on the back of my hand or on my forehead? Well, if I had one on my hand, every time I went to do something, I would notice that. It would be a constant visual reminder. I could do nothing during the day without noticing that myself. And then if I had a brand on my forehead, well, obviously, every single time another person looked at me, they would notice that. It would be a visual reminder that would make them never be able to forget something either. If we're looking at it just like that, God just wanted us to remember all the time that this is who he is, that he brought them out of this. And then taking it a little deeper, I think when you go to any action that you go to do, you usually do with your hands. So thinking that no matter what I'm doing, I need to remember what God has done and let that be a foundation for my actions, that I want to serve the Lord and I want to commemorate what he did with my actions and honor him with my actions. And then the same with my forehead, my thoughts, my choices. They should all honor the Lord and remember the things that he has done for his people. And so then looking at the fact that he brought them through the Red Sea and he destroyed the Pharaoh and his army, incredible how he systematically took down all of the Egyptian gods. And he says, of course, that he did it to prove that he is the one true God. And I'm pretty sure that all of the people in Egypt now understand that he is the one true God because now their Pharaoh and all of their men have died in the Red Sea. And not only that, not only has God proven to the Egyptians that he is God, but also when Moses and the people of Israel sing this song after they are out of the Red Sea, they also say that they understand that the people of Philistia and Edom and Moab and Canaan are going to be terrified because of what God has done for them. So God also is proving to them that he is God. And it kind of makes me wonder because it says in the song that these people of all of these places are going to be terrified and lifeless as stone until we pass by, until the people of God pass by them, because they understand what God has done in Egypt to the people there. And so it makes me wonder if we know that later they're going to wander in the desert for 40 years. But what if they had had the courage to go into the promised land when God first brings them there? And this terror, this memory is really fresh. Maybe their battles would have been easier when they went into the land of promise. Just a thought. So my takeaway today. God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So the same God that did these things in Egypt and with the Israelites is the same God that I serve today. So may the fear and reverence and awe of God be so real in my life, and my relationship with God be so real in my life that everything I do with my hand and every thought and choice I make with my mind, may it glorify him, and may I remember who he is. Thanks for listening. We'll talk again tomorrow.